How you doing, YouTube? Nat Massive Beer Reviews back with an oddly, third year review of a beer I've had 3 years in a row because of Carson crushing my fucking mailbox all the time, and that'd be Strange Roots, Northern Roots. He sent me a beer mail, and this was in there. And it totally escaped my brain because he even wrote it on the little note he gave me here. That he said, what was it, about him getting a guff about not sending me a coffee variant on this beer. And I didn't connect the dots on this because this is a 750, so I thought it was something new. But it turns out I have had, I think, all 3 years, because I think it was the third year for Southern Swells Brewing, and I believe that I've had all 3 years of this beer. I had their first anniversary beer he sent me, which I believe was the Bourbon Barrel and Coffee variant, and it was okay. Didn't really do me anything crazy. You can go back and watch it, as you can the second set I did. So he ended up sending me a second set of them, and it was, I believe, it was a bourbon, it was a rye barrel, and then I think it was a bourbon with spices like chilies and stuff like that. And I did like a side-by-side on those. I love them quite a bit. Much more than the original iteration from these guys. So it kind of threw me for a loop because it was a 750. All those other beers, all those other anniversary Northern Roots were in 500 milliliter bottles, like bombers. And it's kind of weird because almost every brewery is going the opposite direction. You know, if they did 750s, they'll move to 500 milliliters. If they did 500 milliliters, they'll move to 375 bottles or something like that. So it's kind of cool to see Southern Swells being like, fuck it, let's do 750s. I'm a fan. So yeah, let's just dive into this sucker. I actually don't know where my bottle openers are. There's one right there. Like I said, this comes courtesy Carson. Let me read a little bit of story time for you real quick about this beer. It's a bourbon barrel aged Imperial Stout. It comes in at 12%. And they say brewed each year for our anniversary. Northern Roots is an Imperial Stout that we age in bourbon barrels throughout the year. This 2020 edition is a blend of 6 different bourbon barrels from Willett Distillery, St. Augustine Distillery, and Maker's Mark. Done and done. So, yeah. Let's see. A little bit of a hiss. Not a big hiss, not a small hiss. Using like my hazy glass. I don't know why I'm using this, but we're getting it done. Let's see what this sucker has to offer. It has a really nice look to her because it's not like motor oil in color, but she's definitely dark. Give myself a hefty pour. Label-wise, I really dig it. It's almost like, you know, like it looks like it's going to be really hard to see on the camera, but the way the label is, and this is kind of rings true with a lot of Southern Swells beers, is pretty much a picture, and they kind of overlay their graphics over it. This is almost like a tree in a swamp somewhere. Very kind of cloudy in the background, like almost like dusk where there's just a little bit of light left. Just a little bit of light left. And then you swear you can see things, but not enough light to where you can see what those things kind of are. Yeah, I kind of like it. Something about it. Just makes me happy. And beer-wise, I mean, that looks like a big old Imperial Stout. I mean, not a huge head on it. I didn't pour it like a super douche. And this glass kind of makes heads not gigantic and big in the grand schemes of things, especially stouts. And she's dark. Like I said, she's not like thick 5C motor oil level thick, but she is no slouch. Let's see if I get a nose. I could huff and puff and blow this now. That's awesome. That's a great nose. That's a great nose because you're getting almost exclusively equal parts beer and barrel in a very, very fun way. First things first, not really getting any heat on it. 12% barrel-aged beer. You'd expect a bit of heat. Not really getting it there. It's mostly barrel, not spirit. You do get the beer in there. There's a roasted malt component. There is a little bit of like almost like a bittering, kind of what it seems like from either hops or roasted malt or a combination of the two. And it's there. And I said equal parts. It's probably not equal parts. It's probably a little bit more barrel. So 60-40, but it's not far off. Let's put it that way at least. Now the barrel. I mean, it is coconut heaven. I mean, there's rich coconut in there, there's marshmallow, there's vanilla, there's that whole gamut of that spectrum that really is my favorite part of a barrel-aged beer, and they're just kind of ripping that out of this barrel, putting it into this beer in the way I really enjoy it. This beer's not old, man. This is like, just got released, not too long ago. I mean, granted, it's been a long time in the barrel, but it's kind of impressive. You do get the bourbon characteristics in there. I mean, typical, a bit of kind of sweet, kind of molassesy mixed with a little bit of red cherry vibes. So it's got this sweet kind of syrupy thing with this kind of soft kind of spiciness with a little bit of mostly kind of red cherry kind of notes to it, which is quite nice. There's a little bit of soft barrel char, nothing too crazy, but that just kind of marries with that little bit of bittering from those roasted malts and what I assume is a little bit of hops. It's kind of melded together. It smells like a very cohesive beer. That's probably the thing I didn't mention, and I really should. It smells like everything is mixed together well. A lot of times it's like stout here, barrel here, whiskey here, all individual peaking points. This is not the case here. It's very hard to separate each individual component. While they are there, they're blended pretty well together. I'm going to dive in. Cheers. That doesn't suck. Ooh. That doesn't suck. This beer does not suck. There you go. Review's over. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Massive beer. No. Yeah. It doesn't suck. I mean, this is absolutely fantastic. It's cool. It's pulling off a lot of cool little tricks that I really appreciate. And it's so cool to see the progression from year to year to year, because that first one I was like, and next time I did the 3 beer side by side, 3 variants. And it was really tasty, but there was a large discrepancy between each one. There was like, this one's cool, but the bourbon's kind of the best one. Now, I only have one here, but I don't remember getting this level of delight from the beer. I mean, let's take another sip and we'll break it down. So first things first. It's drinkable. It's not thin. Some people might say it's not thick, but you can't confuse it for being thin. Let's put it that way. It's drinkable while at the same time having a decent heft to it. There's a really cool bittering. I mean, the sweetness leads the way. Sweetness from the beer, the sweetness from the booziness, the way that kind of vanilla. Now it's more vanilla kind of marshmallow than coconut, even though it's still there. Kind of flip the script a little bit. It's still sweet. There's a nice bittering from the beer, from the malts, from the hops. There's a really nice soft barrel char that comes off bittering too. And it kind of gives me coffee vibes, like a dark roasted coffee vibe to it. So, Carson said there was no coffee variant this year. Well, even though there is no coffee variant, you're kind of getting a coffee variant in here. Sure, it's down there. It's like a 5th or 6th player, but it's definitely there. Like I said, that vanilla marshmallow coconut thing is there. Flip that script, coconut coming in big into play with that vanilla marshmallow underneath. Kind of flips the script and kind of goes more vanilla marshmallow. Pretty prominent actually in the taste with that kind of coconut coming in third. I mean, really no booziness in this whatsoever. It does not drink hot. Wonderful carbonation. Really great mouthfeel. Really great drinkability. Explosive where it needs to be. This is really good beer. I mean, this is kind of like, it almost even tiptoes because of the way that vanilla and marshmallow and coconut thing plays. It tiptoes a little bit close to kind of giving you subtle pastry vibes. It's not a pastry stout, but it gives you enough to kind of quell or quench that thirst for those kind of beers. In a core 4+ barrel beer. This is, one, like I said earlier, it's a testament to the growth of the brewery itself and how they're doing things and how they're kind of progressing as a brewery to go from what I consider, and this is all my opinion, from the first to second, now this one, it's a much more adult, much more hash out, much more complex beer, but I don't believe the other ones were this blended. It's a smart move, I think. I think it's really smart for a lot of breweries to do this, in the grand scheme of things, rather than just brewing a beer, bottling it, throwing it in a bottle, is, do that, deft hand blending, multiple barrels, different spirits, have the base on hand if you need to kind of dial back some of the kind of violence that some barrel-aged beers can kind of come off with. And I think this is a really great job, not just brewing the beer, but being able to blend it down and select a mixture that I hope is probably the creme de la creme of all those things put together. Yeah, really delicious beer. Absolutely fantastic. Pleasure. Thank you very much, Carson. Super great beer to actually chug. Super happy, and sometimes these big old beers, these 750s, the barrel-aged stouts, I kind of look at and go, yeah, it kind of sucks. I'm going to dump half of this. I am not dumping this beer. This beer is going to be drank. I might put a cap in it, save a little bit for tomorrow or something like that. It'll last a day, but this beer is not going to waste. So let's talk about it. Is this one of the better barrel-aged beers? Barrel-aged stouts. Non-pastry, non-adjunct outside of the barrel. Non-adjunct barrel-aged stouts. Yes. Up there, probably towards the top, to be perfectly honest with you. Just how it shows and how it plays is just delicious, and I dig it. Value and availability, no idea. Carson let me know what's what, and leave you with, if you like what we like this beer, if you like OG barrel-aged stouts, because that's kind of how this comes off. It's not as aggressive and striking as like a Bourbon County, or even as aggressive and striking as some of the other bourbon barrel-aged beers that have been around for years previous, but there's just a mixture of aggressiveness and comfort, of gentleness. It's weird. It's almost like an oxymoron of a beer. It plays it really well. So if you like bourbon barrel-aged stouts and you like them, it's almost like a bizarre, weirdly aged beer. It drinks fresh. Everything tastes fresh, but you're missing all the hot components you would expect to come from a non-aged beer. It's almost like an aged, pseudo-aged version of a barrel-aged beer. If you like those things, you'll like this. So there you go. Another review in the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Down there if you want to talk about it. Massive Beers if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff. Beer Massive. Want to check me out doing the whole podcasting thing. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're enjoying a little bit of Southern Swells right now. We'll see you next time. Cheers.